Hi, welcome back. The pre-opening rates are kicking in right now, and the first rate is down about 0.3%, but we will wait by for these rates to sort of adjust themselves. A couple of things to look at this morning. One of them is the Bank Nifty. Yesterday there was a bit of a disappointment there because the Bank Nifty really came off from the highs and dragged the markets lower. So let's see whether that is exerting any pressure this morning as well. The other thing to look at would be some of these crude related plays, the likes of Asian Paints, some of the tire makers, aviation stocks. They could be under pressure, and further pressure expected on the telecom names as well. In fact, we'll wait by for these rates to adjust and go across to our next guest for the day.
The rupee also flashes. I mean, I don't expect too much by way of news. Rupee has been charting a fairly stable course, but 68, okay, slightly stronger rupee. We did see the dollar recede a bit from that 101 levels. So some strength, 4 pice cheaper rupee, a cheaper dollar. I think it was 34 when we went to bed yesterday. Okay, so 6 pice cheaper is what the dollar is at this point in time. A slightly better opening for the rupee.
Okay, well, Mayuresh Joshi joins in of Angel Broking to tell us how to approach the markets now. Mayuresh, hi, good morning. I wanted to ask you, how do you approach the oil-related plays which are getting impacted on the downside? So, you know, your paint companies, your tire companies, your aviation stocks, any of these pockets that you would look to buy on a dip?
Morning, Sonia. Again, I think with the spike that we have probably seen in crude prices and the general expectations of crude now staying in a range between 50 and 60, the input cost inflation will definitely play out on a whole host of these commodity players which use crude or crude oil derivatives as their input material. So largely, I think paint companies, tire companies, as you rightly said, I think will get affected if crude spikes up further and stays within this range. So again, I think it's a double whammy of sorts with the short-term distortions because of demonetization and the volume degrowth that one might really witness. I think the input cost inflation will also take a sheen off in terms of the EBITDA performance. So I think one really was expecting operating leverage to play through with volumes increasing, and though it would have got offset with rise in input cost prices, I think the bottom line would have increased. But again, I think with volume degrowth happening in Q3 specifically, I think the earnings estimates have got trimmed down. So largely, again, I think wait for declines onto paint stocks and tire stocks. But I think I'm not buying at these levels.
Okay, that's important. Not yet buying. Chandan Taparia is also with us. Actually, the markets have just given 0.33% downtake, and you can't make much sense of the way in which stocks have moved. The tech stocks are actually higher. Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech are higher. ONGC I can understand, but all the tech stocks are higher. I guess the Nasdaq impact will play out. Among the negatives, Hero Motor is down, and understandably. Idea Cellular is down. So it's pretty much playing to news as far as the downside.
Yeah, I think stocks like HCC are extending gains because of news. Sunil High Tech is higher. So could again be a day of individual stocks. Built is higher 9%. So that's also quite interesting. Reliance Infra is down 5% like that, first thing in the morning.
Those are the indebted groups, but I don't know, Reliance Infra was selling off a lot of its assets. So actually this is such a long-term play. Immediately it shouldn't worry these stocks. But okay, let's get some more trading ideas going on. How do you look at the Nifty on a day when it looks like it's going to open quiet and lower? It's not yet hit 8140 though. Chandan Taparia of Anand Rathi Securities is with us. Chandan, the Nifty trade on the F&O space?
Yes, looking at the Nifty recently, it has taken support near to 79.20 and bounced back to 82.50 kind of level. It almost completed the 50% retracement of the recent fall from 8600 to 7916 kind of level. But now we are witnessing sustained call writing at 8300 strike, which will keep the limited upside for the market. But the important part is that 8000 put is adding open interest, and the total open interest is near to 70 lakhs here. So the range bound move might be there in the market. But the only concern is the FIs are selling. They are net sellers from last 16 trading session, sold around 16,000 crore worth of shares. So overall, the database indicates that range bound move might be there, and it will be the stock specific market. On downside, if Nifty comes near to 8120 kind of zone, then one can again go for the contra trade by putting a stop loss near to 8080 kind of levels.
Okay, well, two pockets that continue to be under pressure. One of them is telecom. Idea Cellular, Bharti Airtel are both down an incremental 2.5% on the back of the fall we saw yesterday. And auto stocks, Hero Motor Corp, Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, Leyland, TVS Motor, all under pressure on the back of weak numbers that most of them have posted. Alchem is a stock in focus. This is source-based information where the company has received a tentative approval for a drug, Lyrica generic, from the Daman facility. Now, the Daman facility is very important for Alchem. It's about 30% of the US sales comes from that Daman facility itself. That's another stock to keep on your radar. Mayuresh, wanted your view on the auto stocks. We've seen very poor sales come in from the likes of TVS Motor, Hero MotoCorp, even Tata Motors commercial vehicle space. But this is something I think the market was expecting because of demonetization. At what point would you buy any of these stocks, and which ones would you be looking at?
Well, largely, again, as you rightly pointed out, Sonia, I think specifically the two-wheeler space, I think the effect of demonetization was largely expected to play out because of the price points at which these bikes or scooters are offered, and specifically, I think the rural market witnessing slowdown, you are going to see some impact happening through in Q3. The numbers are testimony to that fact. Secondly, again, I think, as you pointed out, the CV side of Tata Motors, even that side of the business is going to probably see some brunt being borne because of what we are probably witnessing in the markets at the current juncture. So you have to pick and choose, I think, within the two-wheeler space. I think Q3 results are going to be extremely important by the data points that we're gathering at this point of time in terms of volumes. You're definitely going to see volume slowdown happening, and it's only about how the recovery happens post-January. If one really expects the cash normalization to happen in the next few weeks, and again, I think the rural economy probably getting their fair share of cash. Again, I think the translation would probably happen onto the consumption side of trade rather than on the two-wheeler side, which can get delayed by at least 2 quarters. So my own sense is that the underperformance might continue, but stocks like Hero MotoCorp can definitely be kept on the radar. But again, I think the underperformance will continue largely because of these factors. So I think one must wait for significant declines onto these stocks before you start buying it.
Okay, by the way, the SGX Nifty is now seeing more decline, and SGX Nifty normally gets it more right than the pre-open. Look at the SGX Nifty now, down about 62 points. Now, this is, of course, the futures rate that we're talking about. You deduct the premium and you arrive at the spot rate. Ashwani, doesn't look like we are going to get away with minor cuts. This first decline, do you think after that any rally should be used to create shorts? Could that be a bit of a trend day kind of day today?
See, that is the plan, because once Bank Nifty starts getting into a trend day situation, then it will be difficult for Nifty not to follow through. So 8140, 8150 will provide some support, and once that gives you some sort of rally, I think it would be a good strategy to take some short positions.
Okay, we'll come back to you guys for more stock ideas, but for now looks like we could be in for a red start. Another big thing to focus on is that a crucial GST Council 2-day meeting that kickstarts later today. Demonetization could be seen dominating that GST Council talks, but nevertheless this meeting is important because it's going to finalize the issue of jurisdiction of the centre and the state tax officials, as well as the draft model legislations. Shireen Bhan joins us on the phone line to give us more details on what to expect from this meeting today. Hi Shireen, good morning.
Good morning, guys. You're absolutely right. It's a crucial meeting of the GST Council. Now, do remember that on the 20th of November, there was an informal meeting of state finance ministers that the Union Finance Minister had called in an effort to try and break the impasse over the issue of dual control. Now, that continues to be inconclusive, so that will be a pending item to be taken up by the GST Council. And from all accounts that we are picking up, there has been no resolution on the issue of dual control. So this meeting will be crucial to see if something can be ironed out. Separately, since the demonetization announcement, we've also seen the draft law being put up for public comments. And as you heard the chairperson of the Empowered Panel of State Finance Ministers on the channel, Amit Mitra, he did categorically state that they do have some concerns even when it comes to the draft law. Now, remember, the draft law has to be finalized by the GST Council, and then it will be taken to Parliament. I've been speaking with political sources, and while the buzz continues to be on demonetization and the political atmosphere has been vitiated, the government is still hopeful that perhaps in the last few days of this session, there may be some activity, maybe some action in Parliament. There is, of course, the option of pushing this through as a money bill. But I believe that in the current political climate, that is not going to go down well at all. Remember, yesterday the opposition has already met with the president, expressing their disappointment on how the income tax amendments were moved in Parliament. So the decision to move this as a money bill in such a politically vitiated atmosphere is going to be a tough one. But push comes to shove, maybe that is the route that they will decide to take. Now, even as far as the draft law is concerned, if you look at some of the crucial elements, the rates have been capped at 28% for the IGST and 14% for the SGST. And they have also decided to introduce an anti-profiteering clause, which is something, again, that experts that we've been talking to believe that is not practical. They've also decided to set up an authority that will monitor anti-profiteering. So some of these issues are going to be taken up. But let's come down to the issue of compensation, because as we heard Dr. Mitra say, that demonetization was never factored into the calculations. But there's another way of looking at that, because remember, the centre has guaranteed compensation to states, and the base year is 15-16. So even if demonetization were to have an impact as far as revenues are concerned, then that will have to be factored in into that compensation arrangement that has been worked out. So perhaps states' apprehensions on the impact of demonetization and then the compensation will be allayed by the government using that argument. But of course, a lot will depend finally on the politics of this. And at this point in time, the biggest supporters of the goods and services tax, the most vociferous supporters have been the TMC, Mamata Banerjee. And Mamata Banerjee currently is spearheading the opposition against the GST. So far in the council, there has been no occasion where the council has had to vote. All decisions have been taken by consensus. Again, if push comes to shove, will they choose to go down the route of the vote? That could be an option as well. And remember, when it comes to the vote, the BJP does have the numbers even as far as the GST council is concerned. So crucial 2 days perhaps will tell us whether or not the GST has hopes in the winter session or not.
All right, Shireen, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us with that heads up. That's an important meeting that we'll have to monitor today. Well, let's...
These are the Bajaj Auto numbers that have just flashed also on the screen. No surprises. It was expected to be a fall of about 12-13%, and that's where it's coming at. So 13% total sale fall, overall sales that is, at 2.7 lakh units. Domestic sales down about 10% and export sales down about 16%, which is not too bad. There was an expectation that export sales could fall more than 20% year on year, but on expected lines really, November sales have fallen because of demonetization.
Yeah, which is interesting because the management had told us that maybe there will be a 20-30% hit, so they had prepared us for a worst case.
They said it was 25% for 1 week.
Yes.
I mean, he was only giving us the weekly figure. Eric was he wasn't saying that should be extrapolated for the remaining weeks.
And since then things have improved a bit since we spoke to him, because we spoke to him in the initial stages of the demonetization.
Oh yes, but keep in mind Bajaj Auto is more an urban play compared to Hero MotoCorp, which is more of a domestic rural play. But just about 3 minutes left for markets to open. Ashwini, your top conviction call for the morning?
Yeah, I think DLF can be easily sold with a stop around 116, target of 104.
The two-wheelers nevertheless are taking it to the neck for the moment. 2.80 shaved off for TVS Motors. Otherwise, the stocks that are falling are, well, all over the place. Reliance Infra, for instance, probably a debt candidate which may find loans hard to come by. Idea Cellular, again, an expected target after the Relgio announcements. It's par for the course. The Nifty hasn't yet gone below the 8150 mark. Mayuresh, is there anything at all that you will buy? You said you will not buy the crude-related stocks that have fallen. Anything else that looks attractive now?
So Lata, again, I think on the power side, I think it's a very interesting theme. So power grid, for example, though it has moved up, I think any decline can be taken as a buying opportunity. Capitalization to capex ratio expected to be more than 1. You're probably looking at 30,000 crores in terms of capitalization, 22,550 crores in terms of core capex. The regulated ROEs of 15.5% works on the capitalized asset for power grid. So even on a price to book multiple, I think not too expensive in terms of the earnings growth that we foresee. Power transformers as a space is something that I continue to like. And within the road operators, I think the EPC players, players like KNR Construction is something that I'll be optimistic about. 10-15% of an investable corpus can go in this company. Debt equity ratio 0.15, working capital days around 40 days, ROEs in excess of 22%, strong balance sheet, and again, the execution record has been exceptional so far. So I think pockets to choose from, but again, I think EPC, road players, specifically power players, as I mentioned, I think look interesting in markets like these as well.
Okay, well, we have only a few seconds, I guess, for the markets to open. So let's wait by before we come with more questions to our technical experts and to Chandan. It's still showing that 8150 is held. There goes the bell, 8145, 8147, 8146. That's the first stick, so it's 0.5%, 0.6 down. Now 8142. 8141 as I speak. So it's coming pretty close to where our technical experts have told the market should hold. 8140 as I speak. That's the early morning trade. Down about 0.6 or 2/3 of a percentage point, and 0.7 down for the Sensex. Sensex is down 200. No, now it's only 158. The Bank Nifty is showing more weakness. It's down about 0.8 at this juncture. 18,250 is about held on the Bank Nifty, and 8140 held on the Nifty. Very quickly for the stocks that are doing badly: Idea Cellular, Dr. Reddy's, BPCL, Bajaj Auto, Tata Steel, Adani Ports, Bajaj Auto, Ambuja Cement. Those are the stocks that are all down between 1 and 2%. The ones with the key weakness. And the ones with some minimal strength: Bharti Infratel, and of course Eicher Motors, Sun Pharma. The street is choosing to believe that perhaps some problems are over for Halol, as Ekta was detailing. Coal India, marginally higher output. Power Grid is behaving almost like a defensive, and that's continuing to show a little bit of green. Tata Power as well. That's the lot of green stocks. Bank Nifty continuing weakness, 0.8. Markets holding 8140.
Oh, not a good opening for the mid-cap index either. So down about 0.6% over there. You have the market breadth that's quite weak. Almost 730 stocks on the declining side. There are a couple of pockets that stand out as far as weakness is concerned. One of them is all the oil-related stocks. So you know, your paint companies, Berger Paints is down about 3.5 to 4%. The second is the auto stocks, which have seen weak numbers. So TVS Motors under quite a bit of pressure. Ashok Leyland, that one had a big fall yesterday. So let's see how it reacts in trade today. It's seeing a bit of a bounce back, but still struggling over there. Some result reactions have been negative. Dilip Buildcon, remember Anisha was telling us that there were high expectations because the stock was doing so well, but the numbers have disappointed. So down about 7% there. Real estate stocks continue to get hit hard. So you have your HDIs of the world, Unitex, DLF, that are all under pressure right now. And oil marketing companies, because of the rise in crude prices, HPCL, BPCL, IOC were all down yesterday, and they continue the losses today. So there are very distinct pockets of weakness: oil marketing companies, paint companies, auto stocks, etc. On the upside, it's pharma stocks that are ruling. So Alchem Labs, as Ekta was telling us, the Daman facility has got some approval, so that's trading in the green. Shilpa Medicare, FI limit has been hiked. Biocon has been doing very well despite a weak market, and some tire stocks like Balkrishna Industries that had good numbers, that continues there. But otherwise, Anuj, not a good opening.
Not a good opening, and I tell you something, the Nifty is trying to defend 8150 because that's an important support mark. If that gives, then you could be in for a bad day. But let's see how things move from here. The Bank Nifty clearly is a problem now for the market. Ashwini, what's the first trade now?
See, clearly get short on the Bank Nifty, get short on Bajaj Finance, HDFC, etc. Because the way 8150 is not being held finally, chances are we will move lower. So we also bought puts of 8100 because the way the market has cleaned out all of Thursday's gain shows that some sort of heavy resistance is at the 20 DMA, and it's possible that given this sort of global scenario, we could get towards 8050, but clearly the financials are leading this downside.
Right. Mitesh, anything that's drifting into your ken? Now Bank Nifty is going towards a 1% cut, 18,250.
I think, a couple of individual banking names, particularly Kotak Bank has today, after 4 days of taking support around the 200-day average, which is at 735.36, has broken down. So that could be a good shorting call. IndusInd Bank has broken down. So I think private sector banks are clearly having pressure. And on the bank Nifty itself, I think, once we start getting below 18,240 to about 18,220 levels, I think I would take a short there clearly.
Okay, well, the problem for this market is no leg is working. So consumption has broken down, autos have broken down, banks are under quite a bit of pressure, and now we are seeing increased pressure coming from the IT space as well. Ashwini, how do you approach this? Do you think that there could be a further downtick through the day, and would you hold your sell call through the day?
Approach the market?
The Nifty?
Yeah, it appears to be a down day. Bank Nifty is almost at its, recent lows. So once, you have another 50 points off on the Bank Nifty, I think momentum will increase. There's been a clear, decisive turnaround from the 20-day moving average. So your positioning should be short. And if nothing else, at least get out of long positions which you may have bought at 79.50, 8,000.
Okay. Ashwini, at what point does the short position get nullified?
Well, if we start reclaiming 8,200, so you have a 50-point stop, maybe 150, 200 downside.
Okay, well, the SGX Nifty normally gets it right, and the Nifty tried to hold to that 8150 mark, but no, that
suddenly now it's 8130.
8130 is what we have now, and again,
and the Bank Nifty has expanded to a 1.2% cut, so it's moving towards 18,200 with some amazing alacrity.
We are at the 200-day moving average on the Nifty, so it will be interesting to see if this mark is conclusively broken, because if it's broken second time, then there could be problem. And look at stocks like Bajaj Finance now, it's 3% lower, HDFC is down about 2.5%, Jet Airways of course has the crude oil impact playing out, so that stock is also down about 2%. Ashwini, you said Bajaj Finance and HDFC, would you add stocks like Bharat Financial and a couple of other NBFCs as well in the sell list?
Just pile into the financials, possibly, Bank Nifty is going towards 17,800. So I think there is something that's gone wrong with this interest rate story, because everybody is pricing in 50 basis points rate cut, and the way these banks are acting, it doesn't seem like they are very enthused about it.
Yes, a lot of the NBFCs have now started to crack big time, so keep an eye out on them. Satin Credit Care down 5%, Manappuram Finance down about 6%, Bajaj Finance under pressure. So a fresh wave of selling in NBFCs is what we've seen.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of mid-caps might come under pressure now, because mid-caps had outperformed last week, also this week, and that happens when you get a sense that at least in the larger market there is a bit of a downside protection.
The interest rate cuts we cannot price in beyond a point, because there is a Fed rate hike that is possible, and the interest rate difference between the rupee rate, which was, if you were in a 10-year, you were getting something like 7.5 in April, and you were getting next to nothing if you were in dollar. Now you're getting about 2.5% on the dollar, and the rupee has fallen, the rupee rate, 10-year rate has fallen to 6. So look at the amount the interest rates have narrowed just since November 8th. It's not going to be taken too kindly by those who are just fishing for that small wafer thin interest rate differential. At some point in time it can impact on the rupee, and the RBI will be cognizant of that. They can't give you hand over fist interest rate cuts.
Okay, and India Cements is also down about 3% now. We'll thank Mitesh and Ashwini for now. Of course, we'll keep going back to them. And Mayuresh and Chandan, thanks to you as well for joining us. Vibhav Kapoor is in our studios now.